Hi, everybody. Now we're back to Found by Margaret Peterson Haddix, and we are on Chapter 7. Now, the Chapter 6 ended in a big cliffhanger. They all end in a big cliffhanger, don't they? But Jonah got a new note. The new note says, "Beware, they're coming to get you." And on top of it, he kind of had a moment where he asked about his adoptive parents at dinner, and it didn't really go the way I think he wanted it to, and parents are now acting weird. So, Chapter 7. "You didn't tell anyone?" Chip asked. "I told you I didn't I?" Jonah said. "No, I mean like a grown-up, your parents." Jonah shrugged miserably. They were at the bus stop, but standing apart from the other kids, out of the glow of the streetlight. It was the next morning, and he'd just quietly filled Chip in on the contents of his latest letter. "What am I supposed to say?" Jonah asked, twisting his face into an imitation of a terrified kid and making his voice come out high and squeaky. "Ooh, Mommy, Daddy, this piece of paper scares me." He dropped his voice back to its normal register. "Catherine thinks they're just freaking out anyway because I asked a few questions last night." Chip glanced away, and Jonah followed his gaze. In the darkness, the other kids were mostly miscellaneous blobs, but Jonah could pick out Catherine's bright orange jacket in the middle of a huge cluster of kids. It sounded like she was competing with her friends Emma and Rachel to see who could squeal the loudest. "Maybe Catherine's the one who sent the letter," Chip said. "I didn't get one. Maybe she's just playing a trick on you. Remember, she wanted to rewrite that letter on Saturday to make it a better prank?" Jonah thought about how serious Catherine had looked the night before, commanding don't do this, and how desperately she seemed to want him and his parents to just act normal. "No," he said curtly, "it's not Catherine." "Well, then, what did the letter say again exactly?" Chip asked. "Beware, they're coming to get you." Jonah recited tonelessly. It took no effort to remember. He had stared at the words so long the night before that it seemed like they were imprinted on his eyebrows. "Coming back to get you, huh? Maybe it doesn't have anything to do with your adoption," Chip said. Jonah noticed Chip was still having trouble making himself say the word. "Maybe it's a revenge thing. Have you made anybody mad lately?" "You," Jonah thought, but he didn't say it. He couldn't blame Chip any more than he could blame Catherine. "I'm sure it's just another prank," Jonah said, but he wasn't sure. If anything, he was almost sure it wasn't. The school bus appeared out of the early morning darkness just then, and he and Chip crammed themselves into the screaming, squealing line of kids jabbering about how Spencer Patton was going to sneak his iPod into math class today, and how Kelly Jefferson had just broken up with Jordan Cohen. And "Did you hear 6 kids got sick from eating cafeteria pizza yesterday? Do you think they'll fire the lunch ladies?" Jonah hoped that no one could tell that he felt like he was walking around in a bubble. Even as he climbed into the bus steps, walking down the crowded aisle and collapsing into the first vacant seat, he felt like he was in a completely different dimension than the kids who were caring about iPods and math class and breakups and cafeteria pizza. 2 stupid letters, 13 stupid words total, and I am freaking out as bad as Mom and Dad, he thought. First period was study center, and he forced himself to look over his social studies notes. He'd studied so hard that second period the test was a breeze. He filled in the meaningless words. Homo erectus, Homo habilis, Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, all with great relief. There, at least, were questions that he could answer. He turned to his paper, feeling confident that he had gotten everything right, even the bonuses. "See, Catherine, I'm not going to flunk out as a cry for help," he thought. "That's going to be my best test grade all year." Some of the other kids, evidently, weren't so happy. "Come on, Mr. Vincent," Spencer Patton said. "Even you've got to admit this stuff is stupid. Why do we have to study history anyway?" "So you know where you came from," Mr. Vincent said. Yeah, I wish, Jonah thought. And, "Oh, I know. It'll help if anyone invents a time machine," Jeremy Evans wisecracked. "This way, when you go back in time, you can recognize people so you know how to speak Neanderthal and who you need to just speak regular caveman talk to." "Yeah, that's very funny, Jeremy," Mr. Vincent said in a tone that didn't sound very amused at all. "Let's stay within the realms of reality, shall we?" The realm of reality. Jonah liked that term. He imagined telling Mr. Vincent about the letters and having Mr. Vincent shake his head dismissively and say, "Come on, Jonah, stay within the realm of reality." Reality was supposed to be social studies tests and cafeteria pizza, not strange letters and worrying that someone was going to snatch him away, worrying that he'd made a mistake not telling Mom and Dad about the letters and having them be taken to the police to get him fingerprinted. What am I thinking? Mom and Dad would laugh their heads off. Me acting like they should report some 7th grade prank to the police. Mr. Vincent called on Jonah to answer a question, and Jonah didn't even know what he asked. The rest of Jonah's day went like that, too. In science class, he dropped a test tube full of liquid that tested strongly as acid. It turns out it was only lemon juice, but his lab partner still got mad that he splashed it on her Abercrombie and Fitch top. In gym class, he got hit on the head with a volleyball. In band, he miscounted the rests and came in at the wrong time, the only trumpet, playing in a measure that was supposed to be all flutes. It was like he used up all of his focus on the social studies test. He was glad when school was finally over, so he'd be able to go home and plop down in front of the TV, and nobody would notice that he wasn't paying attention to it. But as Jonah stepped down from the school bus that afternoon, the last one off, he heard Chip say in a tense voice, "Come with me." "Huh?" Jonah said, feeling dazed. He hadn't even noticed that Chip was right in front of him. Had he accidentally agreed to help Chip unlock more safes or sift through more records? Had he even spoken to Chip since this morning at the bus stop? "Just to my mailbox," Chip said. Jonah stepped in the street and squinted to him stupidly. "You know how you can mail 2 letters from the same mailbox at the same time, and they might arrive wherever they're going on different days?" Chip asked, "even if where they're going is just 2 different mailboxes on the same street?" Comprehension flowed over Jonah. "You're scared you're going to get that letter today," Jonah said. "The same letter I got yesterday." "I'm not scared," Jonah corrected quickly. "I mean, if you're busy, I could totally get the mail by myself. I mean, it's just you're used to being adopted and you laugh things off, but this is new to me, you know?" "Oh, yeah," Jonah said. "The day's been a barrel of laughs for me." But he silently turned and followed Chip towards the mailbox at the end of Chip's driveway. The Winston's mailbox was one of the fancier ones on the block. Instead of just being on a wooden post, it was on this brick column, and at the top, the bricks encircled the entire box in a graceful arc. Dimly, Jonah wondered how the builder had done that, how the flimsy metal mailbox wasn't crushed by the heavy bricks in the mortar. Chip reached into the mailbox and pulled out a thick stack of letters and flyers. Bill, ad. Chip was flipping through the stack, sounding more relieved that each letter wasn't a plain envelope addressed to him without a return address. Jonah noticed that some of the Winston's letters had those yellow forwarding stickers on them that the post office used when people moved, covering an old address with a new one. "Wait a minute," Jonah said. "When you got that letter on Saturday, was it forwarded from your old address or was it just to this address?" "I don't know," Chip said. He looked up from his sorting for a moment. "This address, I guess. Why?" "Oh, good," Jonah said. "Well, that means it's probably just kids from our school fooling around. They wouldn't know your old address." Maybe most of the 7th grade had gotten weird letters like him and Chip's. He probably should have surveyed everyone he knew instead of just wandering around in a daze. "Yeah, but how would they know I'm adopted when I didn't even know I was adopted?" Chip said, his voice breaking. He bent down over the mail again. "Missing doesn't mean adopted," Jonah said. "Or maybe there's some list of kids in the school office that are adopted and somebody hacked into the computer system and they think it's really funny to..." He stopped because Chip wasn't listening anymore. Chip's face had suddenly gone deathly pale. Slowly, he held up 3 letters, all of them in plain addresses, without return addresses on them. All of them were addressed to 2. 2 of them had yellow forwarding labels on them. One of the labels was peeled back a little, and Jonah could see the words Winnetka, Illinois below. Winnetka was where Chip used to live. "You open them," Chip said. "I can't." Jonah took a deep breath and took the letters from Chip. He ripped them open quickly, the same way he took off Band-Aids. "You're one of the missing," he read on the first letter. And then, "Beware they're coming to get you." And the next one again, "Beware they're coming to get you." Someone had sent Chip 2 copies of each letter, one to his old address and one to his new one. "Wow," Jonah said. "Whoever sent these letters really wanted to make sure you got them." Chip opened his mouth, but it didn't seem like he had anything to say. It was more like he lost the power to control his jaw. "Jonah!" Somebody shouted far down the block from the direction of Jonah's house. It was Catherine. "What?" Jonah shouted back. "There's a message on the answering machine," Catherine hollered. "Dad wants you to call him right away." Jonah didn't care about Catherine's big identity crisis, cheerleader versus basketball player, but he reflected she certainly had the lungs of a cheerleader. And it was such a relief to think that something ordinary and pointless and annoying like Catherine for a change. "Okay," he yelled back, sounding completely normal. Chip grabbed Jonah's arm. "You can use my cell," he said. "Dad just doubled the number of minutes I'm allowed to use. It's a bribe, I guess. Like that's going to make up for him keeping a secret for 13 years about me being adopted. Like it even matters. Like minutes on a phone can make up for years. I'm going to go over the limit anyway. If you don't use my cell phone, I'm just going to have to record some message and leave it on the phone for hours. Jonah wondered if Chip was going into shock. It seemed a little irresponsible to leave him alone, babbling, like he took the cell phone that Chip offered him and decided to call. He punched in Dad's work number. Hey, Jonah, buddy, Dad said too heartily as soon as Jonah said hello. Did you have a good day at school? Well, I think I got an A on the social studies test, Jonah said, trying to sound however he would normally sound on a normal day. That's great, Dad said with way too much enthusiasm. Neither of them said anything for a moment. So, Dad said, I called the adoption agency today just like I promised you. He paused. Jonah could tell he was supposed to say, "Oh, thanks, Dad," or "Really, Dad, you didn't have to do that," or "Yeah?" But Jonah found that his mouth was suddenly too dry to say anything. Dad continued. "Ava, the social worker who helped us, such a great lady. She's not there anymore," Dad said. "But I talked to another woman who looked into your file, and Jonah, there is some new information in your case." Jonah pressed the cell phone more tightly against his ear. He swayed slightly. "Oh," he said. It took a lot of effort to produce that syllable. "It's a name." The social worker was a little confused because she wasn't even sure she was allowed to tell me because it's not the name of one of your birth parents. It's just a contact person for somebody who has information for you. "What's the name?" Jonah said. "Oh, it's some guy named James Reardon," Dad said. "And get this, he works for the FBI." And we'll stop there.